We're told that we live in democracies, where we have the power to choose our leaders and that systems are designed to protect us. In schools, in the media, political systems repeat this promise, reinforcing the illusion of power in the hands of the people.
Was just one more American life.
But beneath the surface of elections, headlines, and political speeches lies another layer, a network of elite interests and closed-door agreements that shape the global order. Wars don't simply start. They're influenced by arms industries, lobbying networks, and geostrategic interests. Currencies rise and fall, not purely due to market forces, but also as a result of policy decisions influenced by hidden negotiations. Policies that affect millions are often crafted in think tanks, summits, and in private meetings, beyond the reach of democratic accountability. They go by many names: Illuminati, Freemasons, Bilderberg, Davos elites. But who are they really? What do they want? Are they truly the shadow rulers of our world? Or are we looking for monsters in all the wrong places? Let's go deeper. They promise us freedom. They promise us control over our destinies through ballots and constitutions. Yet beneath these promises, we sense an undercurrent, an invisible architecture of influence, shaping the world in ways we never ever voted for. When wars erupt, when economies collapse, when rights are quietly eroded, we search for those explanations. We search for who is truly pulling the strings. Is it a system too big to see? Or are there hidden groups steering humanity's course from behind closed doors? Well, to answer that, I think we need to trace the roots of our obsession with secret rulers. And that story begins in the 18th century with a small, radical group in Bavaria that would go on to haunt imaginations for centuries. This is the Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati didn't just start as dark plots to enslave humanity, despite centuries of myths suggesting otherwise. It was actually founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, a law and philosophy professor at the University of Ingolstadt in the Electorate of Bavaria. He had grown disillusioned with the oppressive grip of church and monarchy in Europe. He was inspired by Enlightenment ideals. He envisioned a network that would promote rationality, secularism, and liberty in societies dominated by dogma and feudal hierarchy. But ideals alone rarely shift the world. Weishaupt's Illuminati understood that to influence society, they needed proximity to power. So they began recruiting within elite circles, including nobility, intellectuals, and influential figures, using secrecy to protect their members from persecution while advancing their reformist agenda from within. Their structure included ranks, coded communications, covert operations, all of which fueled suspicions of manipulation and infiltration. And by the time the French Revolution erupted in 1789, Europe's ruling classes, terrified of losing power, blamed the upheaval on Illuminati conspirators. Despite, of course, the revolution being driven by economic despair, social inequality, and Enlightenment ideas broadly circulating in Europe. In 1785, the Bavarian Illuminati was officially banned, its papers seized, and its members scattered. Yet the myth persisted, evolving into a symbol of the fear that unseen forces are engineering world events, even though the organization itself had been dissolved. So what was the Illuminati's legacy? Well, their story reveals a profound tension between idealism and power. Adam Weishaupt and his circle envisioned a world where reason, secularism, enlightenment could replace dogma and monarchy. But they recognized that challenging entrenched power would require influence, and influence required secrecy. Their secrecy was in fact their shield, protecting them from religious authorities and monarchies that saw rational inquiry as a threat to their legitimacy. The secrecy allowed them to recruit thinkers and elites quietly and to sow the seeds of reform without immediate suppression. Fortunately, secrecy is a double-edged sword. While it protected them, it also bred paranoia among those in power and fear among the public. The hidden nature of their meetings, coded communications, and hierarchical ranks became fertile ground for the myth that the Illuminati were orchestrating revolutions and engineering social collapse across Europe. In reality, though, the Illuminati were a small network seeking change in a hostile world, not a cabal orchestrating global dominance by any means, but their existence provided rulers and reactionaries with a convenient scapegoat for social upheaval. Instead of acknowledging the economic inequality, political corruption, and the widespread dissatisfaction that fueled revolutions like the French one, elites blamed a hidden hand in the shadows. This pattern, blaming hidden networks for complex societal upheavals, has echoed throughout history. The Illuminati's legacy isn't one of world domination, but maybe more right it could be said it's becoming a symbol of how fear of the unknown can transform real social movements into conspiracy narratives, distracting societies from addressing the actual forces of injustice and inequality that drive people to demand change. So while the Illuminati may have dissolved under straight state crackdowns, the fear of hidden societies steering revolutions and empires didn't die with them. Instead, those suspicions found a new focus, a society far older and far more widespread, a society whose symbols are etched into city layouts, currency, and monuments. A society bound by secrecy, rituals, and the promise of brotherhood. I'm talking, of course, of the Freemasons, the network of networks. Freemasonry traces its root to medieval stonemason guilds, but during the 17th and 18th centuries, it evolved into an influential global fraternity, attracting politicians, scientists, philosophers, and artists. Figures like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Mozart were members drawn to the fraternity's ideals of brotherhood, liberty, and the pursuit of knowledge. Freemasonry offered networking, mentorship, and a space for Enlightenment thinkers to gather and exchange ideas, often in secrecy to avoid religious or royal persecution. The use of symbols, the all-seeing eye, the compass and square, the unfinished pyramid, and ritualistic initiations fostered an aura of mystery. The layout of Washington, D.C.'s architecture and the presence of Masonic symbols on the US dollar bill, for example, have only deepened public curiosity and suspicion. Critics have accused the Freemasons of manipulating governments and economies, citing their influence during revolutions and during the creation of new nations. However, Freemasonry lacks a central command structure capable of orchestrating global events. So what is Freemasonry's true power? Well, Freemasonry is best understood not as a global puppet master, but perhaps as an elite networking system that thrived in a world hungry for connection, hungry for advancement and security during periods of political and religious upheaval. At its core, Freemasonry offered social capital, an interconnected web where members could find support, mentorship, and opportunity. In an era when social mobility was limited, membership in a Masonic lodge could mean the difference between stagnation and advancement, providing access to influential circles in politics, in commerce, science, and even the arts. Its rituals, symbols, and coded language fostered a sense of exclusivity and belonging while strengthening the bonds between members. These elements also created a mystique that outsiders often misinterpreted as evidence of nefarious secret agendas, particularly when Masons appeared to rise in influence across societies undergoing rapid change. The visibility of prominent Freemasons, founding fathers, presidents, revolutionaries, and renowned artists fueled public suspicion. Their presence in key moments of history, from revolutions to the founding of new nations, made it easy to conflate correlation with causation, turning natural networking and influence into narratives of total control. Yet Freemasonry, lacking a unified global hierarchy or a singular objective, does not operate as a cohesive force steering world events. Instead, it operates like many elite networks today. It creates avenues for mutual support within existing power structures, enabling members to rise within governments, economies, and societies while preserving the system that benefits them. Now, this dynamic demonstrates how systems of influence do not require a hidden hand controlling every detail. Influence often emerges from shared interests, aligned values, and quiet support structures, all amplified by the secrecy that shields these networks from public scrutiny. The fear surrounding Freemasonry is less about what it actually is and more about society's discomfort with the unseen alliances that shape opportunity, privilege, and power, reminding us that hidden networks can feed conspiracy narratives even when they don't fit the myth of a single controlling cabal. The Freemasons operated under the ideals of liberty and fraternity, using secrecy to protect their members from oppressive systems. But as empires fell and the modern world emerged, a new kind of elite network rose, one that didn't rely on ancient symbols or ritual, but on summits, hotels, and private security. Here, the world's most powerful figures gather quietly out of public view to discuss the future of nations and the future of markets. And for many, these gatherings represent the closest thing to a shadow government the world has ever seen. Welcome then to the Bilderberg Group and the world of modern elite gatherings. So where to begin? In 1954, a secluded hotel in the Netherlands hosted the first Bilderberg meeting, bringing together leaders from politics, finance, and industry to foster cooperation during the Cold War. Since then, the group met annually under strict confidentiality with no press coverage and no public transcripts. Attendees have included prime ministers, royalty, tech CEOs, bankers, defense officials. The stated goal is to discuss global issues freely, away from media scrutiny, allowing a candid conversation on economic policy, technological change, and geopolitical tensions. Critics argue that these gatherings bypass democratic processes, allowing a small group of elites to align policies informally, shaping global governance with no accountability. Similarly, the World Economic Forum in Davos and G7 meetings bring global elites together to discuss frameworks that affect billions, far from the influence of ordinary people. These closed-door meetings allow political leaders, central bankers, CEOs, and defense officials to engage in candid discussions about global economic trends, technological shifts, geopolitical tensions, and crisis management, away from cameras and public scrutiny. The alignment of interests forged in these gatherings can influence which conflicts receive intervention and which are ignored.